Welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for the Big 12 Mojo Rankings here in week number 7. We're across or right at the halfway point of college football's 2025 season, which is kind of alarming, surprising, and that's just the way it kind of goes, though, is you wait so long for it to get here, and then it's over before you know it. But we got a little bit of a ways to go. I did want to make one comment real quick on a tweet that I saw about the Bill Belichick story that we were just talking about, where it looks like he's on his way out. Salute to S. Brad Thompson, who said there are going to be a lot of kids wearing Chapel Bill T-shirts in Uganda. So, yeah, I think he's right. Wearing those Texas Rangers 2011 World Series shirts and those Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl champ shirts, and yeah, that's definitely going to be the case. So,
who is this Bill? He's very popular.
Yeah. Chapel Bill. Who's this guy? But there you go. So let's get into the Big 12 Mojo Rankings for week number 7. This is power rankings with my own personal twist on it. I factor in maybe a few of the outside things to kind of tip the scales when we got things that are even across the board for the most part. And so let's dive into the bottom 4, which are unchanged. If you guys look at the schedule from last week, there looks like there is an upper class, a middle class, and a lower class in the Big 12. Now, I don't say that in any disparaging type of way, but there is definitely a group of contenders at the top that you can argue are 5 or 6 deep. And then there's a group of schools, like a handful, that are in the middle that, depending on how things kind of go, they can one week be trending upward, one week trending downward. And then there's a batch of schools that are just at the bottom right now.
Like a teeter-totter, right?
Yeah. And these schools are just kind of at the bottom right now. Oklahoma State, obviously, things are really kind of on hold and doing the best they can with what they can, and players jumping into the portal. Issues at quarterback, just not a lot going right, but they're playing hard. They played really scrappy against Baylor, but they are clearly in the worst spot of any school right now. And they've already owned that, and they're looking ahead to next season, but they are number 16 right now. West Virginia at number 15. I think it became clear maybe in the last couple of weeks for those it wasn't clear for beforehand that West Virginia is very much in a rebuilding year. BYU handled them pretty easily. I know maybe for some who went and looked at the final score that it looked a little bit different or a little bit closer, but it really wasn't. So West Virginia now I have at number 15. At number 14, Colorado. I'll say this about Colorado. I actually think they're better than I gave them credit for a week ago when I talked. They're not a very good team. I still feel that way to some degree, but I was really impressed by how scrappy they've been the last couple of weeks. Even though the quarterback play has been very erratic, the tackling's been very erratic. They've actually been able to run the ball pretty well. They've been able in these games with both BYU and TCU the last couple of weeks. We're leading TCU in the fourth quarter, but they just can't finish. And now they find themselves at 2-4, and they are at 0-3 in the Big 12. So I don't think things are like super negative, but the results are not positive right now. I think maybe they're a team that can make a little bit of noise down the stretch. And then UCF, you talk about injuries to quarterbacks and close losses, and UCF's a team that's experiencing a lot of that right now. I do think there is an upward trajectory with Scott Frost. I think there's a good vibe. I just think that it's going to take another offseason or two to get it to where they want it to be, but back-to-back losses now against the Kansas schools. Had an opportunity, got stuffed on the goal line. I don't know if that was a badass goal line stand by Kansas this past weekend. So not able to finish the job against the Jayhawks. And because of that, they are sitting at 3-2. But as far as this bottom bunch goes, I think they've got the best mojo going right now, even though Colorado is maybe not as bad as it appears, at least in front of the scenes. But your record is what it is. So here's my bottom 4 right now.
Yeah, look, there have been some good moments, for Colorado and UCF the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the win over Pitt was great for West Virginia. Mm-hmm. But, of all the teams in the bottom 4, UCF is the one where you can kind of see the clear direction. West Virginia, I think I know the direction. They're just not going to be able to drive in that direction until they get the guys.
You got to have wheels on the car.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I know where they're going. Colorado, I don't really know where they're headed. Like, I don't know what they're going to do to adjust to the post-Travis Hunter world that they're living in, and that first flurry of recruits that Deion was able to get when he went there. And Oklahoma State, we don't know where they're going until we know who the next boss is going to be of the football program. But Scott Frost really seems in his element at UCF. Craig, a guy, and you and I get tweets from a guy every week talking about UCF. And I met him when I was there. Really nice guy, and he tailgates a lot.
Sir tailgate a lot. Yeah.
Tailgates a lot. Great guy. I went to his tailgate. Really good tailgate.
Shout out.
But which is pretty much all of UCF is one big tailgate. But they feel good about it as a fan base. They feel comfortable, and it looks like Scott Frost is got some things, but he just doesn't have his players yet. Which same like the other new coaches, they don't have their players yet.
Yeah. So
Colorado has Iowa State, Utah back to back coming.
Yeah, I mean they're and I do factor in also what's ahead. Like I mean, what are you looking at as far as stormy seas go, and how does that affect sort of the overall vibe and product? And so here's your 4 here. Now let's bump up a little bit, and we got that bottom. I'm telling you that bottom group. K-State looked like they were going to get out of this bottom group. They were going to start going more towards the middle, and they made a little bit of a stride, but they got to stay where they are. If you look at it, I went and put a red mark or a green mark, like green for win, red for loss, and almost the entire top half is green in the Big 12. The entire bottom half is red. I mean, not quite, but it's pretty damn close to that. And as you see, all the teams in the bottom lost last week, so they remain unchanged. Kansas State, I don't want to throw reckless speculation out, but it is fair and it is accurate to say that nothing has felt right there since Chris Kleiman's personal issues last year, whatever that all entailed, like private matter, health, like whatever that was. It felt like we had a couple days where we talked about, like, is he going to retire? And then they're like, no, he's going to be back. But I'm starting to wonder about that again. Or is he going to go somewhere else and maybe go back to like a Dakota school or something?
I think he's going to be a candidate at Iowa.
Okay.
Eventually.
Well,
because that's where he's from. And he fits like he's the modern version of Kirk Ferentz, right? Like he shares all those same kind of philosophical things, but he's willing to try new stuff. As opposed to Kirk Ferentz, who's like, look, I've had a bag phone since 1994.
Yeah.
I don't need to look at the internet on my phone.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to recklessly speculate, but just stuff has not felt right there since dating back to late last year. And the record shows that. And they had a great showing from Avery Johnson against Baylor, but some coaching mistakes and just some big mistakes like Avery Johnson's pick 6. And things just aren't lining up for them. I mean, 4 losses by a combined 13 points, guys. It's that type of a year for them. So I don't know. Maybe Kleiman's there for the next 10 years, but the vibes are off. The vibes are not good. The mojo is not good right now. Houston taking a loss, and that was a team that was kind of teetering. Like, where do you really place them? And look, they lost to Texas Tech. There's no shame in that. Most teams are going to. You lost by 24. Most teams are going to lose by that, if not more. But the Wegman injury leaves everything kind of foggy right now. I don't love their offense, even with him healthy. The defense will keep them in games, but I had to drop them a little bit because they've been kind of hanging around based on just continuing to win. But they got to slide a little bit with that loss, and now the uncertainty of what's to come at quarterback. Arizona got bumping up a spot. They're 4-1. Overall, and obviously with a very intriguing game coming up this weekend where they could really turn the league on its head if they're able to upset BYU, but handle their business against Oklahoma State as they should. Baylor, slowly, like a spot a week. I do think they are more of a top-tier team than a bottom-tier team. I know people don't love them, but they are talented enough to be in basically every game, and every game on the remainder of their schedule, they have a chance to win. But as I wrote in an article for the 365 Sports newsletter, they could finish at 10-2 realistically. They could also finish at 4-8 realistically. Like, that's where they are. So they are at number 9. There is the second 4.
They if they don't need to all of a sudden become the best defense in the country. If they can get a little bit better, they have the kind of offense.
They weren't during the Browse years.
Exactly. Like, you don't need to.
What Phil Bennett was asked to do is give the offense or give 2 stops. Yeah. One in the first half and one in the second half, and that might be enough because you're going to score 35 a game.
Yeah, and the way that this it will work better when they know that they can get stops. But if they can just get them in key spots, look, last week The stop they got was a blocked field goal at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything right on that last drive until that very second, but it only takes one thing. And what I do think people need to realize about Dave Aranda, that for as bland and boring as the Baylor program seems, one of the reasons it is that way is by design, because Dave is really good about keeping that team together and in stride and all that. Because if you look back last year when they started out the year terribly and looked like the wheels were about to fall off, they never quit believing in those coaches. So they believe in the coaches, and that I don't think is going to change. And look, right now they've done it by being 4-2. So I expect them to be, in the mix. I just think that their defense is not good enough to where they can really go on a run, but they'll beat some people.
Yeah.
They've got back-to-back home games or road games. It's TCU and Cincinnati.
Yep.
So there's a fork in the road upcoming. But hell, I mean, what if they go win those couple? What are people going to say if they're 6-2 with road wins at Fort Worth and Cincy and so on? But there you go. All right, top half of the bracket now here. Kansas surviving by the skin of their teeth against UCF. A talented team. Manuel Henderson's a beast. Jalen Daniels, very talented. Not quite the run game they had a year ago. Obviously, you lose Studley Stud, but they are a solid, I think, just one of those like a Baylor, like an Arizona, like a Houston, like maybe even a TCU. They are just a solid team that can win each game and they can lose each game. And I know that sounds probably a simplistic way to describe it, but I don't feel like they're in the upper tier where they're like knocking down the door to Arlington. But I think if things worked a certain way, they could be in the discussion here in a few weeks. I'm just not ready to put them in that upper group, but they are very solidly in that contender middle of the group. So for them to go out and move to 4-2 overall and 2-1 in Big 12 play, be above 500 and go win a road game in the Sunshine State, big goal line stand. I think they're a good, solid team, but they got to go to Lubbock now. So we'll see how that works out. TCU down a spot for me, and I know that TCU is coming off of a win. So to move them down seems kind of odd, but I had to make room.
Yeah, because Iowa State fell so far.
Yes, I had to make room.
It's not really what TCU didn't do. It's that a guy above them got thumped pretty good. So that happens.
And I wasn't going to drop Iowa State to like ninth because they lost a game all of a sudden. I think 4 is a pretty good fall. So this was less about TCU. This is more about Iowa State and just, had to make room for them. Iowa State drops 4. I felt like some people kind of thought they were towing the line to begin with some of their close wins. But I think they're a super solid football team. Losing their corners was huge last week, obviously, and we'll see how it affects them moving forward. It dings them a bit, in my opinion, as does their first loss. So they've got to drop. And just like for TCU, it's not about Iowa State, but it's just about Cincinnati jumping over Iowa State. You just beat them. For one, you just beat them. Cincinnati's got to get love for beating the Cyclones. I couldn't have Iowa State remaining above them.
Yeah, and especially since they weren't that far. I mean, they weren't like, it wasn't like
no,
Cincinnati
this isn't
was
them
13th.
No, this is them going up 2 spots. So I actually had a pretty good read on Cincinnati last week. So they jump up a couple spots for a big home win against the Cyclones.
Yeah, Craig, you're very dead. Like, I've not disagreed with one thing you've done in all of these Mojo rankings. You really do put some good work into it. Kansas, if they win this week, it's going to be because Jalen Daniels painted his masterpiece.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's going to be where he's going to be like, this is my Michelangelo's David. Mm-hmm. I can leave this place happy now, because that's what it's going to be because of that defense. TCU is just, I mean, they're
good, but they're not great by any stretch.
But they can't hold on to their own mojo too.
No.
So I kind of understand this. Iowa State in the first half was getting rocked.
Yeah, it was
bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
Let's not forget it was 31-7.
But credit to them for chipping away at it.
Yeah.
And being that kind of team. But Cincinnati is this year, in my opinion, they've got the last year Arizona State vibes.
They're trending to be either BYU or Arizona State a year ago. Yep.
Yeah, they are. So Cincy, a fun story, Iowa State dropping. And if that first half had held up, then Iowa State, I don't know where they would have fallen. Maybe like 9 or 10 if you had been beaten by 30-something points like it looked like they were en route to. But I still think they're going to make some noise if they can keep their health. And out of the top 4, let's get into this. A bunch of people moving up because Iowa State lost. So Iowa State had been there at number 1 up until, a couple weeks ago. And then they were sitting there at number 2. But now with them dropping out, a lot of people moving up. So Utah sitting back and, getting a lot of criticism after that first loss. But again, I go back to, what if Texas Tech's just really good? And that wasn't Utah being bad. It was that Tech is just that much better. They handled their business against West Virginia with absolutely no problem whatsoever. Arizona State, I think you could have them at 2 if you wanted to. I think you could make a case if you wanted to try and throw them in there, but very solid team, obviously. And now getting ready for a big showdown with Utah. So we're going to have this 3 versus 4 matchup coming up in Salt Lake City on Saturday, and I'm very much looking forward to. And that'll obviously create a move probably either way. BYU at number 2. Bear Bachmeier looked really good last week. Now, he had some mistakes, some turnovers. They got to clean that up. He can't have that, especially with the games they've got coming up on the schedule. But for a true freshman, rolling in like he has with some good help around him, he's played really well. He's got great receivers around him, really good running back in LJ Martin, terrific defense, solid special teams. Like BYU is just, I think, a total package. They don't necessarily have like the star or whatever, even though they do on defense, and some places on offense. But he's been really good, and that was the big missing piece, right? If Jake Retzloff had just been the quarterback rolling in, they would have been 2-3 on most of these preseason polls, and you take him out of the equation, you go, well, what now? Well, Bear Bachmeier's answered that resoundingly so far. So I think BYU from a top-to-bottom standpoint, and then considering some weeks you can throw in this home field advantage of theirs, they are a very strong team at the moment and one of only 2 unbeatens. The only other one, they're at number 1, as they have been for the last 3 weeks, ever since that win over Utah. Texas Tech, do they run away with this thing? We've talked about Texas Tech versus the field and all of that, but I think they're the pretty clear number 1. They haven't been real challenged. I think that's going to change potentially here in the next few weeks. If it doesn't, then that bodes really, really well for them. But they're, to me, the clear number 1 right now from an everything standpoint. Mojo on the field, Mojo off the field, draft picks. Like, I mean, every category.
5-star commitment for
5
2 years
recruiting's out the window. Like, great.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you could possibly want to have going your direction right now, they've got going their direction. So that was a pretty easy choice at number 1. And there are the Mojo rankings for week 7.